Hi guys, and today I'll be playing Tomorrow Will Be Dying, and this is the prologue, where we follow along Bee's story as she reconnects with old friends, makes new ones, and overcomes the traumas of her past. Let us start. I sing of brooks, of blossoms, birds, and bowers, of April, May, of June, and July flowers. I sing of maypoles, hawk carts, and wasels and wakes, of bridegrooms, brides, and their bridal cakes. I read of youth, of love, and of access. By these I sing of queenly wantonness. I sing of dews, of rings, and piece by piece, of balm of oil, of spice, and ambergris. I sing of times trans-shifting, and I write how roses first come red and lilies white. I write of groves of twilights, and I sing the court of Mab, and of the Berry King. I write of hell, I sing, and ever shall, of heaven, and hope to have it after all. The argument of his book, Robert Herrick. Tomorrow will be dying. That was a nice little poem. Okay, it's an announcement. In a few minutes, we will be arriving at Mokuzai Terminal. Eri glances up from her phone to look at the signs inside the train. Sure enough, Mokuzai is displayed in large electronic orange characters. She takes out her earbuds and taps her phone to pause the audiobook playing pink fake nail clacking against the screen. After ensuring she has everything with her in her pockets and bag, she stretches out her limbs, letting out a soft hum of satisfaction. The journey here was quite the chaotic one, whether dealing with the poorly concealed gawking of passerbyers, getting lost in the gigantic wave of bodies pushing her and fro, or leaving all her belongings on the express train. She was exhausted with it all. Sitting here in this empty rundown town with nothing but its rattling ambience to accompany her, a refreshing feeling washes over her like a gentle tide. Every love is nice in Tokyo, filled with bright colorful lights, bustling crowds, and undying liveliness. But there is something she misses about quiet nights in Mokuzai, where only the thing you can see are your own 2 feet. One reason she can undoubtedly name for this is that she misses her family back home. Visions of their small fishing business by the sea floats in her mind, and a warm feeling spreads throughout her chest. Hope that they've been doing all right without me, Eri smiles to herself, filling with the whale phone charm that they gifted her on the day of her departure to Tokyo. Playing with her charm like this strikes a chord from deep within, the action of vaguely reminding her of someone, pulling forth a face she hasn't thought about in a long time to the surface. Her mind is suddenly filled with visions of short black hair that danced in the wind and stoic yet gentle eyes. An image that was nearly forgotten until those memories of her time in Mokuzai came flooding back. It was probably illogical how often and how easily Eri linked her hometown with that particular verdant gaze. Whenever Eri happened to come across her, Ashikaga Shion, by her lonesome, and the other would be playing with her magical girl phone charm just like this, seemingly unbothered by the fact that she was alone. And yet, if Eri squinted, you could find an air of sadness past that vacancy, at the edge of that isolated sphere. Eri rubs a thumb over her now warm whale phone charm, allowing herself to reminisce over the enigmatic individual. Under the blaze of the setting summer sun, amidst the cries of the evening cicadas, one of their school's mysterious, albeit rather a seen one, was unraveled. And on that day, Eri was set in motion. Oh, we're just humming. Eri explored a multitude of hobbies growing up. Track and field happened to be one to stick to when she explored the first clubs in her first year of high school. With that being said, when Eri pursued something, she would always put 100% into it. She genuinely loved running. She loved it more than anything in the world at the time. Everyone had always said she had a one-track mind, but it was thanks to that one-track mind that she brushed off any such mean-spirited statements. Which is why, even when carrying big sacks of yellow cones to the sports field, she couldn't just help but run, the June sun beating against her back even in the early morning. As she started placing cones throughout the field, she heard a rattling of the fence behind her. Turning around, she was greeted with the sight of her little brother, Masaru, climbing over it. Masaru? She threw the rest of the cones aside and sprinted towards him. Even with her speed, he already reached the top of the fence by the time she was there. He then jumped, grabbed onto the nearby tree branch, and promptly swung down from it, landing limply on his feet. How many times have I told you not to come into school that way? Could I just sneak in through the gates? It's faster, he shrugged. Harry had no idea where he got his brusque attitude from. She had even less of an idea where he even had the inkling to dye the ends of his hair. Not missing a beat, he took off his blue Randoseru backpack and brought out a lunchbox wrapped in fish-patterned cloth. The tag on the corner said cloth had Aries' name on it. "You forgot your lunch this morning." "Ah, thanks, Masaru." She sighed and took it from his hands. Aries was relied on for preparation of the entire family's lunches, had been carried away in the whirlwind of busy work. He quickly unwrapped her the cloth and checked in the box contents, relieved to find each carefully prepared side dish remained accounted for. Any desire to scold her brother dissipated, and instead she almost burst into tears at the sight. "Alright, adios," he saluted, began to climb up the tree, but Aries spotted something stuck to the bottom of his sneakers, so swiftly grabbed his ankle. "Wait!" "What?" He quietly hissed back, backlit by the sunlight beyond the tree leaves. Trusting her brother's grip on the branches, she turned his foot around and stared bewilderedly at the dusty sole, or more specifically, something stuck to it. "What?" I said. It's a... Mary hesitated for some reason, opting to shield the offending item from her brother's supposedly innocent eyes. In the heat of the moment, she thought she might also dispose of it before he could unconsciously track bits of it into the elementary school. It's a cigarette," a new voice said, matter-of-factly. "Oh." Having nearly jumped out of her skin, Aries checked over her shoulder to identify the speaker. "Ninja?" Standing there was a track team captain, Tsukimi. She wouldn't even bat an eyelash at Masaru, being used to him randomly appearing at the club practices every now and then, but Aries couldn't help but panic. "Captain, this isn't what you think," Aries stammered wildly as she tried to get the cigarette out of Tsukimi's line of sight. Her effort only led to Masaru's foot slamming into her face as it was jerked away from being twisted about naturally. "There's no use in hiding it. Look at your feet." Aries, still gingerly pinching the crushed butt between her fingers, did as she was told and let her eyes fall to the grassy patch under her feet. She was surprised to find the cigarette remains scattered all around. "I've been seeing these collect by the street for the past few days. I didn't mean to report it to a teacher, but it slipped my mind, what with the track meet being just around the corner." Aries nodded in understanding, relieved to have avoided an unnecessary lecture. "Well, you should get it done sooner than later. There's no way I'm letting some hooligans get away with throwing cigarettes at this poor tree." "Agreed. Which is why you'll be going in my stead." "Eh? You were the one who locked up the equipment shed yesterday, right? I was just about to set up some hurdles when I noticed equipment missing." Tsukimi stared, looking straight at Aries with scrutinizing gaze. "What about the pole vaulting poles?" "What? No way. You're saying it was my fault?" "Well, we're also missing track spikes and jumping boxes," Obara, Aries' underclassman and shot put extraordinaire, added helpfully. Tsukimi raised a brow and simply placed her fist on her hips admonishingly. Aries began to sweat under her stare. "There's no way I'm scatterbrained enough to have left the shed unlocked," she thought. However, the captain's cold eyes led to her to doubt her own memory. Suspicion wouldn't have been baseless either. Last month, it was a whole pack of relay batons. This was particularly serious, however, as they had one extra vaulting pool. Tsukimi finally relented, turning away with a sigh. "I'm not trying to be mean. In circumstances like this, I have to consider all options. Either way, the others will be more than likely place the blame on you, so it's in your best interest to figure out the equipment issue. Might as well report the cigarettes at the office while you're there." Having said her piece, Tsukimi left and began setting up for practice, Tomorow gave Eri a shrug and shortly followed suit. Seriously, why are you so forgetful? You're still here? Eri's gaze followed Masuru's finger, pointed to his foot which she had been holding onto the entire time, squeezing it as if it was a stress ball. Once she released his leg with a murmured oops, she could clearly see the handprint she left imprinted on his skin. Now free from her grasp, Masuru climbed up the tree like a monkey. Once he found stable footing up on top of the metal fence, he called out to his sister. I know you're gonna beat yourself over just a small mistake like this, so just clear your name and everything will be fine. Fight for a better day, that's what you always say, right? Masuru flashed a small smile before hopping down from the fence and sauntering off. After a few seconds of watching him leave and making sure he was walking the correct direction towards the elementary school, Eri laughed through her nose and jogged towards the field, helping set up the rest of the equipment as more track team members filtered in. Alright, we'll look into it, the teacher, Saki-sensei, said while jotting down the final notes of the report. Picking up his dismissive tone, Eri reiterated that the price of the missing tools. Oh no, I get it. It's just considering how things have turned out in the past. He trotted off and turned towards the window, hurrying himself out by the shirt collar. Damn sure is hot these days. Oi, Kazumi? Since you're here, why don't we discuss your science grades? Eri unconsciously jerked back the sudden full frontal attack. What she would subject herself to in her obedience to the captain. Pop quiz for you. How many Earths would it take to fit into the sun? I don't even know that. I'll give you a hint. The sun is massive. Hey, I almost forgot. You know the plum tree by the fence? We found some cigarettes around there. Isn't that tree like a national treasure or something? Cigarettes, huh? He stretched and after leaning back in his chair, let out a short but exhausted groan. Must be Saki? Either her or the other one. The bad Ishikaga. The bad Ishikaga? Oh, sorry, there's two Ishikagas in the school, so I say that to avoid confusion. You should know her, the track team dropout, he sighed. No relation or anything, by the way. Eri then recalled something she heard a few months ago on the track field. Did you hear? What? Apparently, Ashikaga has started hanging out with that delinquent girl. What, you mean the tea ceremony girl? No way. Right? I wonder how things ended up like that, I mean. What a waste of talent, huh? Hey, that's enough rumor mongering from you two. You'll never break your records wasting time like that. Once the bell signifying lunch period rang out, Eri went straight to investigating. She already confirmed that her friends, with whom she usually ate lunch with, knew very little about the two suspects pointed out by Saki-sensei. She never imagined she could manage to scarf down a massive lunch like hers while sleuthing about, and was quite impressed with herself afterwards. Oh, the tea ceremony girl. If anyone stole your track and field equipment, it'd be her. Yeah, that crazy girl threw sensei's lunchbox out of the school. Why? The occult club. You've never heard of it? How's that even possible? Your former prince is part of it, you know. I see them make trouble all over the place, so I'm not really sure where they hang out. You could try asking Hatogaki Koji guy, though. He's in the same class as Ashikaga. I think he's the class rep. I see them talking every so often. Hatogaki Koji. Eri remembered him making a big deal about justice and such during his run for student president. So we are investigating. Ashikaga? Why ask me? I heard from a reliable source that you two talk from time to time. You're the class rep, aren't you? It makes sense that you'd be keeping tabs on, you know. No? He said very slowly while glancing around. Wait, you're not? But my reliable source. People just assume that because I pick up on our actual representative's slack. It's a real hassle. Huh. Hold on, does that mean you're actually friends with Ashikaga? Even better. You gotta know where she hands on out lunch, or at least. Friends? I'm not really sure how I say that either. Hatogaki became noticeably fidgety, a bead of sweat trickling down his temple. I guess I've noticed that every time lunch starts, she makes a beeline for the door and goes upstairs. But that's it, he mumbled, scratching his cheek while staring intently at the floor. The stairs. Either she was heading to the third-year classrooms, or she would climb all the way to the top, the rooftop. Gotcha. Thanks. So you really don't know anything else? Someone called Sakai? I heard she was part of the tea ceremony club before it closed down last year. I don't know anything about that gorilla. Now excuse me, I should be heading back to class. And hiding his unnaturally pale face, he shuffled off robotically. For some reason, she could sense some sort of shame from him, but it didn't dwell on it. Almost breaking into a run in the hallway, something for which she's gotten into trouble many times in the past, she made her way up the stairs 2 steps at a time. Thanks to team members and classmates that made it their business to keep track of such things, she on her part had no idea the school even had such a club until moments ago. Eri managed to find herself face to face with one of the named delinquents on the stairs leading to the rooftop. So, are you accusing me of stealing it? No, it's nothing like that, You certainly didn't look the part of the delinquent she'd been built up to. Even so, Eri began to falter under the pressure of Sakai's gaze, which she could swear was piercing right through her half-baked lie. Such an icy cold glare, she thought. Maybe all those rumors were true after all. Well, I'm listening. She enacted it in her mind over and over on the way. You hooligan, she shouted out, pointing a finger of justice at the evil doer, who melted into a puddle of confession on the spot. Eri inwardly scoffed at herself for thinking for even a moment she could stand up for any cause and resort to Plan B, the much more realistic course of action. You're part of an occult club, right? What of it? I was hoping you could do something to help me find it, you know? Don't you guys like consult ghosts or something? Eri stammered, saying the first thing she could think of. No, I can't say we've done anything along those lines. Though our club is still young. That? Well, that's fine. What do you do, if you don't mind me asking? Nothing really. If you want, maybe I can forward your request to our club president. Your story is exactly the type to get him all riled up. Oh, better yet, you can tell him yourself. Eri reluctantly followed the head of cascading hair down the hallway to an unused classroom, only to find the door wouldn't open no matter how hard they pulled. Taki pressed her ear against to listen to it, stepped back with a sigh, and then tapped her foot impatiently. I can come back another day. Ignoring her, Sakai started banging on the door and called out in a loud voice. Hey Prez, I know you're in there. Open up. Hey, are you really sure he's in? Call it a supernatural intuition. Be right back. Please wait right here. Sakai returned with a paper fan and something wrapped in tinfoil. Just watch quietly. Sakai sets that something down on the ground and started fanning the scent towards the door. Sniffing, Eri finally identified that something as a baked potato. Soon enough, the door unlocked and slipped open. Really, food? You can't resist, can you? Ugh. An unassuming, sleeping-looking boy stumbled out of the dark room, but froze upon realizing he'd been tricked. Eri silently played spectator as the probable president lifted his eyes only to be greeted by a wicked grin. With a flick of the wrist, Sakai dramatically clacked her fan shut, causing the boy opposite her to blink. Don't be too angry with me, Prez. You wouldn't answer any of my calls, so this is the only way I could get through to you. I won't reprimand you, as long as I get to eat that, he said heavily. Help yourself. As if a ravenous wolf, he tore off the tinfoil until face burst into the piping hot potato. "Send Sakurai-san," he said, with a burnt tongue. She grinned widely. "That's Sakai, actually. But feel free to call me whatever you like. Is that any good?" "Bien." Sakai slaps him across the shoulder. I thought she said she slapped him across the face. Ostentatiously. "Well, Prez, you look rather relaxed this evening. I didn't interrupt a nice dream or anything, did I?" I get the feeling that it was nice, but I could barely remember it. He took another bite. Feeling Sakai's stare, he slowed his chewing and then swallowed nervously, shifting his eyes between the two girls in front of him. Eri straightened her posture a bit as he finally seemed to waken up to notice her presence. "You're not expecting something in return for this, are you?" "Oh, nothing more than your gentle counsel." Sakai patted Eri on the shoulder, prompting her to speak. By this point, it would be beyond Sakai to try and recall the details of Eri's request. Excuse me? My name is Kozumi. I was hoping you could listen to my request." "A request for the occult club." "I'm afraid our club meetings are every other day other than today, Thursday, and we sometimes do weekends." He turned towards Sakai, who would have expected you to know this. "I did think this might interest you. Hear her out, why don't you? We're not exactly the request-taking type of club. It's about time our dinky little group made a contribution to society, don't you think?" Please, Eri bowed deeply, facing the floor. Looking down at her, he scratched the back of his head and yawned. "I somehow doubt Sakai-san, of all people, would know what interests me, but I'll hear you out." "Really? Thank you." Eri relayed all the facts about the missing track equipment to him. As she spoke, she noted how the boy's half-lidded eyes grew more and more vigilant, and how he began to nod intently throughout her explanation. "Come to think of it, I think that's one of our 7 mysteries of our school. A ghost that steals athletic equipment. I believe you missed some details, possibly added some. I don't remember anything quite as lame as that. It's a very serious problem. In fact, we were studying those mysteries, though we were going in order, and that's the 5th one if my memory serves. We haven't even made a dent in the first one." Takeda began to walk off in the middle of her sentence. "Hey, where are you going? Are we taking this request or not?" "Of course we are, but not recklessly. Have you seen our other members today?" "No, not today. Last I saw her was yesterday. Needed her to fix something and she completely ignored me." Sakai shifted her eyes to the ceiling. "Something tells me she won't be up for this either. And why might that be?" "Well, considering who's asking." She was interrupted again, this time by a yawn. "First, caffeine. Oh, where are my manners? I'm Takeda. I look forward to working with you." On account of the summer heat, Harry already spurned the idea of a visit to the school rooftop, but the potential meeting with Ashikaga weighing on her mind, her steps became even heavier. The loss of the Formula E of the track team wasn't explosive in the least, but it had been so things might be easier right now. Instead of any true bitterness or hard feelings, a mere indifference had pervaded, which, at least on Aries' part, could only be perceived as a constant state of limbo in which unspoken feelings are buried and stored away to burden those involved. Feelings that felt as though they will last for the rest of their high school careers. It wasn't until the quiet drama of last year's incident that Aries fully realized just how daft she could be when picking up on social cues. At first she thought it was only a minor setback, certainly not one she wouldn't overcome if she only worked hard enough. That naive, youthful confidence was thrown to the wind, the indomitable spirit that she had believed herself to possess, torn to shreds by the unending, soul-draining apathy offered by each of her peers. It was only that year, with the recruitment of fresh first-years, that things finally started to look up, though Aerie had yet to shed the title Tiger of the track team. That is to say, she still played the role of pack mule, the muscle in an attempt to keep spirits up. So much for the incident. As to the person Ashikaga herself, Outside of loud congratulations and other routine sports teams proceedings, Aries' interactions with her were relatively sparse. Still, Aries harbored nothing but admiration for her, though said admiration was understandably tempered by the captain's barely hidden coldness towards their former star. As much as Aries would have liked to lead them to reconciliation, any attempt at forcing it would feel like only with cruelly poking at open wounds. All to say is, she had no idea how to approach Ashikaga, much less inquire into the cigarette situation. No, she thought to herself. As long as I treat her like anyone else, things will work out. She went on in her mind as they climbed again the steps towards the roof, convincing herself that if she could leverage her admittedly excessive curiosity about Ashikaga, perhaps that would break down any barriers. Psyching herself up and inwardly led to nearly tripping over a step outwardly, interrupting some quiet, trivial banter between her two guides. I'm okay, she cried. Takeda helped Aries stabilize while Sakai, who let out a sharp huff of amusement, made her way to the door. You know, I was under the impression that the rooftop was off limits. It's a bit of a miracle that we managed to get permission. I guess you could put it that way. She sighed. Don't know why I fought so hard for her in the first place. Hardly spend any time up here. Do I even want to know what happened? Aries thought to herself. Takeda, as the breathing in her mind continued. Long story short, it took a lot of persistence, and just the right amount of exhaustion on the teacher's part. When anyone asked, we're looking for UFOs up here, alright? Okay. Aries' eyes narrowed as her vision was enveloped in the brilliant azure of the sky. Ashikaga turned at the sound, wasting no movement as always. As Aries watched this, she was struck by the restful expression worn on her face, which communicated a restful, or perhaps wasteful, year out of the limelight. Put another way, it was as though she didn't have the extra energy to expend on movement in the first place. After a short burst of wind provided some much-needed temperament and regulation, Aries shook herself out of her observations and bowed towards Ashikaga. Good afternoon. Ashikaga could only blink at the sudden address, though she could barely hear the words that came out of Aries' mouth. Takeda stepped into the blinding heat. Glad you're here. Let's solve the fifth mystery. Not today, Ashikaga sharply interjected. Just as quickly as the trio arrived, Ashikaga strode past them, just before making her way through the door and turned back to say, I'm sorry. With a short nod to the club's client, she fled down the stairs. Aries perplexedly turned back to the Moranian club members, not sure how to react to the nonchalant shrug the two shared. So much for that, Takeda said easily. Well, she's busy. Things will be a bit more difficult without her help, but I can't surrender now after that potato. Aries was certainly discouraged by Ashikaga's curt exit, anticlimactic to say the least. She couldn't help but link the girl's departure with her own sudden appearance. However, Sakai and Takeda seemed to take no mind to her attitude as though that was business as usual. She supposed she could take this as an reassurance otherwise. So, pause. The president peered into Aries' face, hoping to find some hint of the name that evaded him. It's Koizumi, the girl reminded him in unison, Sakai muttering an extra forgetful under her breath. Ah, right, so Koizumi. If I'm understanding this correctly, you're missing track equipment, no? Mind pointing out where the equipment shed is? It's over here. Aries motioned for the two to follow her as she jogged to the far side of the roof, pointing at the small building with her feet planted on the ledge of the railing. I see. Takeda copied her, leaning dangerously over the railing himself and surveying the field. Do you see something? I'm looking for possible blind spots and hidden paths that I think could take the infiltrator to tread. He responded without a hint of humor in his voice whatsoever. Aries blinked at him in confusion. A thief? Shouldn't we be looking for a ghost? We don't believe in that crap. We're in the occult club in name only. Sakai waved a hand and laughed. Aries looked back and forth between the two club members, puzzlement clear on her face. Seriously? Even Ashikaga? Especially Ashikaga, Sakai snorted. Why did she join this club in the first place? Still a complete mystery. I've asked her a million questions, but I still feel like I hardly know her myself. Huh. Mary looked up towards the sky and blankly watched the class pass by. She momentarily forgotten why she was up here, swept up in her own emotions as she was. Despite their claim, spending time up here with this club certainly made it feel as though she was becoming cursed. Plan, she shouted inside her head, her eyes widening like saucers. She discreetly glanced at Sakai, who was now checking out the field alongside Takeda. A metaphorical light bulb flashed above Ari's head, where she gestured towards the very tree in question. Actually, the track team captain and I found some cigarettes around that plum tree. If you don't mind, maybe we could investigate that as well. I suppose they could be related. Takeda pondered, rubbing his chain with his index finger. We'll go down and take a closer look after school then. Thank you. Harry smiled at him as he headed towards the roof door, glad that he still retained his sober enthusiasm. Harry looked back at Sakai over her shoulder to study her reaction, but as Harry half expected, the girl had the usual cattish smile plastered on her face. She certainly didn't seem to be displaying any nervous tics, but Harry told herself to not be fooled. Something told her that this type of girl likely found enjoyment in the chaos she sewed. They reconvened as soon as classes were over, and once they gathered around the tree, the club president was straight to work. After some initial inspection, he offered his rough report. This had apparently gone unnoticed by those privy to the littering issue. There were some small dents in the tree that were just deep enough to be identified as deliberately made. Upon confirming with Eri, the size of the dents seemed to match his missing track spikes. Perhaps someone used those spikes in a cursing ritual? Have you heard of the Ox Hour Shrine visit? If I recall correctly, it has to be done 7 times in a row for the effect to take place, so if we're lucky, we'll have to catch them in the act. I see, Eric groaned in desperation. Who would do something like this? Isn't there such a thing as a ritual that doesn't ruin public property? Heard of that ritual, Sakai says, sidestepping Eri screaming. Doesn't it involve nails and straw dolls? How exactly would track spikes? Suddenly, Takeda brought up his finger, silencing her. Hold that thought. What? Sakai asked, her expression communicating that she's already given up on finishing said thought. Takeda surveyed the surroundings, turning in a few circles when his eyes seemed to land on the school building. I feel as though someone is watching us. Huh? A chill ran down Eri's spine. She only then realized how weak she really was when it came to horror stories. Where? Takeda seemed deep in thought, tilting his head as he continued observing the building with a careful eye. It was then that the sound of approaching footsteps took their attention away from the supposed presence, snapping both Takeda and Eri out of their tense postures. You brought the occult club? You really lack sense sometimes. You are aware of the identity of the members that make up this club, right? Eri could offer no response, instead of looking down and thinking of what to say. How to communicate her plan, unraveling as it was, and bringing them here. Saki-sensei wasn't much help, so... Hey, cut her some slack. I mean, if anyone can find a culprit, it'd be fellow deviants, right? She faithfully bowed towards them. Please hurry, I can't perform without my lucky pool. Well, I got my suspicions as well. But thanks for coming out here anyway. Come on, Captain, you too. I mean, no offense, she said, frowning. I wouldn't be surprised if Ashikaga was smoking around here with spite. Ha, I can't help but worry about her. Sakai grinned, jerking upward as if her interest was finally caught. My, you sound a bit bitter. A slight flush rose to Tsugimi's face, but she maintained her stoic body language. If you're implying I'm upset you took her from us, you're very mistaken. Just look at her in her current state. I say it's a good thing she quit. Captain, Eri's voice rose, but as usual didn't affect anything. So you say, Takeda cut in. From what I've seen, she still seems plenty fast. Regardless, if that's how you think of things, then I'm glad. No need for any hard feelings between our clubs. Then he, in a slow, relaxed gait, stepped past Eri. This way to the equipment shed, right? Oh, yeah. Okay, there's some weird tension here. Someone has to be messing with me, Eri thought. It would have been better if I was just standing here, watch here the entire time. Yep, that's all of them, Obara reported with a weary smile. The equipment's back. That's all that matters. Tsukimi then made a point of giving Eri the same dirty look from this morning. We'll have to remember to keep a closer eye on this shed, alright? Of course. Eri nodded, then returned to address the call club. I'm sorry for bringing you here for nothing. It's alright with you. If it's alright with you, Takeda began casually. I like to keep investigating. Could be a deliberate, possibly mean-spirited prank. Are you sure? I mean, if it's just a prank. No stopping him now that he's like this. His curiosity is piqued. Sakai picked up and inspected the previously missing bolting pool. Personally, I'm a bit more concerned about those cigarettes myself. I don't like being caught up in false accusations. Bah, seriously, who'd be stupid enough to smoke on school grounds? Eri side-eyed the girl at this. As she says, I don't do things in halves. We're doing it on our own violation, so no need for polite gratitude. No, either way As her voice trailed off, Takeda stepped out of the shed. Sakai followed shortly after him, gently dropping the pool in Utsukumi's hands. The three track members glanced at one another. Why don't I grab us some snacks? The kind that'll cool you guys off. Captain, do I have your permission? Huh. That's fine with me. Just don't get sidetracked, okay? With that all settled, Tsukimi turned the pool, and prior to taking her own leave, issued an order to Obara. We're going to return this to Hiragi. You better stick it out and keep an eye around here. Her eyes narrowed once more, signaling her intent. Yes, Captain, he chuckled with the usual sarcastic tone. As Eri, who had just finished a short chat with Obara, stepped out of the dinky shed, she spotted the two occult members crouched beside the same tree. She jogged up to them and then patted Takeda on the back rapturously. I'm going to get snacks. Would you two like anything? Takeda shot up. What caused Eri to take a step backwards, however, was Sakai, who was holding a cigarette between her lips. It's not a new one, Sakai stated simply. As if that answered anything, Eri just stared blankly at her. I just want to compare brands, she continued, only making things more confusing. Eri's brain felt fuzzy. I wouldn't blame you for suspecting her. She most certainly acts the part. Eri thought for a moment. That was the original reason why she was doing all this, but after seeing Sakai and Takeda defend Ashikaga when all Eri could do was stand there helplessly, she couldn't help but want to believe otherwise now. She felt pathetic about her wishy-washy frame of her mind. Truthfully, I did suspect you initially, Sakai-san. Now we're being honest. But now, somehow, I get the feeling that you wouldn't do anything that awful, even if you are a little crazy. Eri wrung her hands together nervously, unacquainted with being so blunt, especially straight to the person of interest space. To her relief, all Sakai did was bark out a laugh, and even Takeda's lips quirked in amusement. You should probably spend more time with us before making that judgment. Wait, which judgment? Anyway, I'll go for a Mont Blanc. Mont Blanc? What's Mont Blanc? Soon enough, Eri came jogging back to the field, bags of snacks rustling in her hands. She distributed all the items, save for those picked out for the two occult club members who were nowhere to be seen. Eri asked the nearest runner where they went and was informed that a teacher caught sight of Sakai with a cigarette in her mouth, after which the two instantaneously broke off in complete different directions. Tsukimi once again appeared behind Eri without so much as a sound. They really are unequivocally delinquents, aren't they? Her shoulders shook with laughter. I never seen something so ridiculous. Even I find it hard to imagine that Shikiga hanging out with such an unruly crew, But it's not as though any of us knew much about her in the first place. Why is this girl so offended? Eri found herself not being able to say anything back. In fact, she had no clue what she would want to convey to this individual. Did she want to laugh along and agree, or did she want to call out Tsukumi on her increasingly unbecoming behavior? It was much easier to fall into the prior. It was the type of response she always resorted to after all, but she lacked the energy to even do that. Her change in